all you awesome third graders out there. Today is Tuesday, February the 9th, 2021, and we are working on telling time and writing time to the nearest minute. We talked yesterday about why it's important that we learn to tell time, because we use schedules daily, regardless of whether we're a student, someone who is working in the workforce, or even at home to do schedules at home. So it's important that we know how to tell time on both an analog clock and a digital clock. Now, we talked about how we know we're going to be successful. We should be able to read an analog clock and determine the time to the nearest minute, and even finding out yesterday that there's a second hand that we could use to find out the time to the nearest second if we need to. Now, we also talked about a digital clock and how those are displayed and how we can tell time on a digital clock. So again, we are thinking about who has the time. How can we tell time to the nearest minute? Our learning target is I will tell and write time to the nearest minute. So that's our goal, is to be able to tell time and to be able to write it correctly and say it correctly. There are ways that we can say it differently that still are correct. So we may say it in a different way. So we're going to be learning some things about that as well. So remember, we want to review a clock, thinking about what do we know about an analog clock? What does it look like? We know that it has shorthand, a long hand. I put a white hand, but that could also be red, because my clock at school, those kids that were in my homeroom yesterday actually saw that my second hand was red. So it could be a red hand. But what does the shorthand tell us? Now remember, the shorthand is the one that you see here that is pointing toward a 10. That shorthand tells us the hour. What hour is it? Now, we talked a little bit about yesterday, if the hour hand is between the 10 and 11, then it's always going to go to the number that's in front. So it's going to, or behind. So it's going to be the 10. It would be 10 o'clock. So it would be the lowest number that it's between. So keep that in mind. As the clock moves, that hand is moving. It's moving slowly, but it is moving. So that hand will show that it's the hour. Now, sorry guys, I just got a text from one of the students' mothers, so I got distracted. So that's what you can put in my notes today. I got distracted because I got a message from a student's mom. The long hand actually tells us the minutes. What minute is it? Now, we talked a little bit yesterday about what each number represents. So remember, it's similar to something we've already used in class, except for it's in a circle. It's similar to a number line. So between each number, there's smaller minutes, and then each number represents a hop of 5. So if I start at 12 and I hop to 1, that's 5 minutes. From 1 to 2, or from 12 to 2, that's 10 minutes. 12 to 3, that's 15 minutes. 12 to 4 is 20. So it keeps going up and it hops by 5s. Now, when we go from 12 back to 12, how many minutes should we have hopped? I hope you said 60, because it takes 60 minutes to make 1 hour. Now, the white hand that's on my clock now, we also call that the second hand, or it could be a red hand. And remember, that one tells us the seconds. How many seconds have passed? Now, how many seconds are there in 1 minute? Yes, 60. There are 60 seconds in a minute. So keep that in mind as you're looking at a clock, an analog clock, to get that information. Now, my next question is, can we tell the seconds, how many seconds it is, on a digital clock like the one on your computer? Can we see the seconds on a digital clock like the one that's on your computer? Actually, I cannot see the second hand on my clock. So some clocks might have that. I have a watch that used to tell me the seconds. I could do seconds on there. But for this particular clock, I look down at the bottom of my computer. All I see is the hour and the minutes. So analog clocks can give us a little bit more information. Not all analog clocks have a second hand. Mine in my classroom does. Just review some of the things that we talked about yesterday. Time is the duration of an event from the beginning to the end. Time can be measured in standard units. Now remember, we talked about those in seconds, minutes, hours, and days. Time is also can be considered as AM or PM, and we talked about that as well. When does AM start and when does PM start? And then both an analog clock and a digital clock are instruments to tell time, and we use those on a daily basis. Time can be told to the nearest hour, half an hour, quarter of an hour, or to the nearest minute. Well, and we can say second on there as well. It doesn't say it there, but I feel like second can be added there as well. Elapsed time can be found by finding the total amount of time that passes between a starting time and an ending time. Now, this is where our goal is. We're going toward calculating elapsed time. In some of the problems that you'll see for elapsed time, you may have to calculate the beginning or the ending time. So we're learning to tell time on a clock so that we can use that information to figure out elapsed time, or how long something was spent. So keep in mind that we're going to be moving toward that. So it's really important that we learn to read a clock for many reasons. One of those mainly for everyday life, because we have to use a clock during everyday events. So let's try a problem. This problem says that a bus is scheduled to leave the bus stop at 8:36 a.m. Use your clock to show this time. How does knowing how to tell time to the nearest 5 minutes help us tell time to the nearest minute? So we're going to answer this question, and then we're going to talk about how knowing the nearest 5 minutes help us with the time for the nearest minute. So I'm going to hop over to a virtual clock and show you how to use that clock to set time. Now, you can use this particular website to help you with time and setting time on a clock and check yourself with it. So I will share that link with you, and then you can practice at home. We said the time was going to be 8:36. Now, you can unlock the hands or lock the hands. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the minute hand, because I want to be able to just move my hour hand to the correct time without moving my minute hand. Now, we said 8:36 a.m. So I'm going to go ahead and move my hour hand to the 8, and maybe even a little past the 8, because I know that I'm moving toward 9 o'clock. I'm just not there yet. So I'm going to move my hour hand somewhere in between 8 and 9, because it's starting to get closer to 9. And then I'm going to go ahead and lock that one just so that it doesn't move. And then I'm going to unlock my minute hand, and we said 36. So I'm going to think about, first of all, we talked about yesterday, if you were in my group, how this clock is broken up into different sections. So I'm going to tell you that if we are here, if I were to take a line and just put it right down the middle of that clock, I have broken that clock into two pieces, meaning that I have, this would be 1/2 and this would be 1/2. So this can be called, if it lands on the 6, that could be called half. So if I could say 8:30, there's all kinds of ways to read that. Now, I can also break this clock. I could draw a line straight down the middle and then draw a line this way in the middle and break that clock into 4 pieces. I would have a piece here, a piece here, a piece here, and a piece here. Now, when I see something broke into 4s, I always think of quarter math, because money is something we use every day, and it takes 4 quarters to make $1 whole dollar. So it takes 4 quarters, if I've broken this down into 4, to make 1 whole clock, 1 whole hour. So I can call this the first quarter, from 12 to 3, the first quarter. I can call 3 to 6, the second quarter. I can call 6 to 9, the third quarter, and 9 to 12, the fourth quarter. So I can say, if my minute hand is on the 3, I can say it's a 8:15. If it's on the 9, I can say it is a 8:45. So you've got to hear it said many different ways just to see how is a correct way to say the time. So there are multiple ways to say it, just like I could say it is 45. I could say it's 45 minutes if it's on the 9 past 8, or I could say it's 8:45. So if I'm looking at the 6, if this minute hand was on the 6, I could say it's 8:30. So it's a half hour past 8. There's many ways to say it, or I could say 30 minutes past 8. So I'm going to go ahead and lock that one. And we were asking the question, how do we know by counting by 5? So I know that if I'm counting by 5s, I know that 5 times 6 is 30. So I can just go ahead and put that there. But I'm thinking about 36. So I know that I need another 5 to get 35. How would I determine where to put that? I know that I need one more. I think Cooper said that yesterday in class. I need one more. He was doing 2 more. He said, well, I know that I just need 2 more. So here's where I'm going to get in the middle and get my minutes. So there's going to give me 8:36. And I'm going to go ahead and lock that score or that time in. So if I want to check it to see if I'm correct, I can click here and my digital clock says 8:36. Now, here's the deal. Can I tell if it's AM or PM? Not by looking at this clock, I can't. Not by this analog clock for sure. But I can think about when AM starts and when PM starts. So it allows me to know what I'm going to be using, whether it be AM or PM. Now remember, AM starts at 12 when we're asleep at night. So it's like, well, that's weird that the daytime starts when we're asleep. And it's still dark, isn't it, at 12 a.m. But at 12 a.m., when we're in bed at night, we call it night, but when we're in bed, that's when the morning starts. And then when we get to 12 during the day, that's when the PM starts. So if we know that knowledge, then we're able to tell whether it's AM or PM on this particular clock. So let's go back and think about the question, how does knowing to tell time to the nearest 5 minutes help us tell time to the nearest minute? So we can think about, then what I love about it is we could think about multiplication. We know that we can multiply times 5, each one of those numbers times 5 to get the minutes that it is after. So I knew in this particular case that 5 times 6 was 30, and I could also use 7 times 5 is 35, so I know I needed just one more. So knowing time to the nearest 5 minutes is helpful to determine telling time to the nearest minute. Today for lesson work, you're going to complete the problem of the day, of course, as always, and then you're going to do boom cards. Now remember, using boom cards, make sure that you log in with your Google login so that you can get credit for that assignment, because it will not log you in and give you credit unless you hit sign in with Google. So make sure that you sign in with your Google account to complete that assignment. And then once you complete that, you can click Turn In. Make sure that you complete both assignments before you do so. Also want to remind you that tutoring will be offered today at 2:30, so look for that link if you need some extra help at 2:30. And our multiplication test will be as scheduled, so look for your scheduled time and log in during that time. I hope everyone has a great day. If you have any questions, you can always hop onto the whole group Google Meet and ask your questions. I may or may not be in there depending on whether or not I'm in multiplication test. So you can ask Miss O'Brien and Miss Adams if you have any questions. And I hope everybody has a great day. Get your work finished early so you can just sit and relax. See you all later.